GM, KEP Posse. This is Kianga Ellis. I'm Kianga Ellis, and welcome to today's live. We had fun yesterday, didn't we? At the KEP Sunday shows watch party. I enjoyed that. That was fun. So we might do that again. We'll see. TBD. So I did want to come online today and just talk very, very briefly about what it looks like to get started along the path of entering the circle of trust. So since yesterday or over the weekend, we posted the essay. First, I got the Banny, then I got the Power, and it's just really all of the wonderful things that have inspired Kianga Ellis Projects in 2025 and the Rural Rapid Response Network and the new thing, which is the Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association. And I want everyone to read the essay and take on board, what we are embarking upon in very, very tumultuous and challenging times. I have a very profound feeling that things are going to continue to get extremely weird. And there's probably a ton of other words I could add. But I'll just leave it there. And part of that weirdness, I believe, will be revelations that challenge how we have believed. We've had a lot of that, haven't we, already in the recent years, but I don't think it's going to slow down. So I'm saying this to myself right now as I've just come off of some work and it's processing as I'm like, oh, it's 2:00. I gotta go talk to the KEP posse. And so all of these things are actually spinning right now really fast in my mind. And I am just telling myself that we are going to keep marching forward no matter what is happening. And everything that we've designed, everything that we are doing is actually really for the unfortunate future. So there's just no reason to pause. There's no reason to step on the brakes. There's every reason to just keep going. And I say that for Kianga Ellis Projects and our intention to use new technologies, our interest in the political process that we have inherited. Many aspects of our work and our lives. This goes for me. This applies to you. They often are coming apart in terms of how we have carried them thus far in our lives, how we have understood what we've been taught, what we've done in our lives, what we've used, what we have followed, who we have followed. And I think that it's important for us to do things like Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association to, alongside of whatever else we're juggling, that we are not slacking in how we're coming together, gonna link up and do the things that need to be done, do what's right, do what can, as we say with our logo or with our mantras, preserve the present and protect the future. So without further ado, what I wanted to do today is kind of demo for you what it would look like to join the circle of trust or enter the circle of trust. I've talked about it and shared a few clips about the activity of us coming together. The Rural Rapid Response Network, citizen adjacent action, these are these like big sweeping ideas and concepts that are very hard to kind of get your arms around. Well, what is it? How do we get involved? How do you get involved when you're talking, Kianga, about something that's regional from New York State, the center of the state? Mountains, the northern Catskill Mountains, through New England, all the way to the coast, the mid-coast of Maine, a regional project that engages everyday people, all of us where we are, hyper-local but connected, networked through both our physical activities, but importantly, we have this technology, and I say, let's use it. And so today is just a brief look at, a day in the life of a person, and that person's going to be me, getting started in connecting and doing the work of citizen adjacent action. What is it that we can do with what we already have? So often, we're bombarded with the sensation, the sense of hopelessness, certainly, but also helplessness and being very, very, very overwhelmed by just the magnitude of difficulties and changes and pressures and the powers that seem to consolidate more and more and more every single day, and even the things that were once really meant to be these opportunities for us to break free. Things like the internet, things like even social media, believe it or not. Some of you remember this, when social media, this platform X, formerly known as Twitter, there was a time, and I remember these times when, the world became flat. You were real time. Back when the feed was not managed by an algorithm, it was an unbelievable time. I'm talking about circa, 2009, 2010, and the content was just real time. Whoever you followed, you got to see what they were saying as they said it, and it was such an organic feeling of being in a public square, but your public square was the world. And those were times that felt like, yeah, this is the answer. We're on the precipice of a whole new era of human thriving. So we've been through that phase. We don't feel that way about the internet anymore. And then I got involved, yeah, early for some people, but certainly very, very late for many others. But I feel when I got involved almost 10 years ago, looking into Bitcoin and the crypto industry as I was starting my own law practice, I mean, that's really when I took that extra look, after being very dismissive, as most people are, for a very long time, about what was going on with Bitcoin. This is like circa 20, I guess around circa 2012 is when I first started to follow Bitcoin, like in the financial, like in the news, but not look into it. Or I may have looked into it. I think it was about that time when there was a big dust up in the community. I think around 2012, I did look at some blogs. I was like, okay, what's going on here? And it just happened to be at a time where it was very chaotic. And I was like, okay, yeah, whoa, I'm staying away from that. But I circled back around like I said, 2016, when I started my law practice. I had always had an interest and a focus in my legal work on very particular niches, derivatives in the late 90s, credit derivatives, and very esoteric things that no one had heard anything about. Although they're now quite famous after 2008. Now everyone knows about these corners of finance that in the late 90s I got interested in. So it was a very organic move for me to think what would be comparable in, say, 20, the mid 2010s, as credit derivatives or derivatives were for me to begin get involved in at the beginning of my career in the late 90s. And so all of which is to say at that time, yeah, it also, in the same way that the early days of the internet felt like this new frontier in personal freedom, financial freedom, connecting beyond gatekeepers and rent seekers and all of that. Yeah, we've sort of, we're in a slump in terms of what many folks saw in blockchain and the cryptocurrency industry and the technology. I would say like not even industry, right? I mean, the movement, let's be clear, in those beginning days, certainly, but even, when I started to really research and pay attention and follow it, particularly, from a legal perspective, I was like, there should be some folks who need services in this niche, and that's a niche that I could, you know, um, specialize in. And so I have done that. Uh, but since that time, yes, it has turned into an industry. And now, along with many, many other things, it is in the crosshairs of machinations. I'll just say that, machinations. But notwithstanding that, and notwithstanding all the things that have shifted in terms of our, our people focused hopes, we're not ready to give up. We're not ready to give up on the internet. We're not ready to give up on the decentralized, open source, blockchain based coordination and financing mechanisms that are available. And so, Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects is a what we call crypto native organization. It is a friend circle, and we are a group that's coming together to support the wider mission of citizen adjacent action, a new form of civics, which includes things that I've been doing for, going into my third decade, particularly around the arts and philanthropy. A crucial part of any vision that we have, the vision we need to find for this better future, the navigation path through these particularly, you know, troubling times, 100% that innate creative impulse. And I talk about this a little bit in the essay. I talk about the power. So the essay is first I got the baddie, then I got the power, and I will have another session where I walk through the essay, the concepts and the thesis and the theories that have inspired this current iteration of Kianga Ellis Project, going into the third decade of me doing things off-road, off-road of my legal career. And now that I've gotten involved in civics, in the political process, very, very involved, obsessed, you might say, now that that has just taken such priority and such urgency, the work around artists and supporting the arts and social practice art, which is kind of really what I do. This genre of visual arts that's referred to as social practice very much defines the way in which I have presented work or collaborated or done things in the art world, separately from boring legal stuff. So check out kiangaellis.com and you'll see an archive of photos, some video and clips, and you can get a sense of what this activity that I'm doing now with Kianga Ellis Projects has evolved over the years. And it's always involved the internet, really, and social connection through the internet, and how we can maximally leverage this technology, for this value set, for these ideas. And so that piece of it, how Kianga Ellis Projects has sort of created this friend group, this friend circle that's crypto native, that's on blockchain, using an open source protocol called Juicebox, and how we're using that as a coordination mechanism and as a tool to amplify and manage the disparity, the disparity in reach, the disparity in prominence, in all of the ways in which it feels difficult to go up against big money, big tech, just big everything, when we are very small. We are very small, and we have limited resources, we have limited time. But my solid belief is that when we join forces, and we join forces in a very particular way that this new technology allows us to, we're going to be able to do something very, very, very encouraging, very exciting, and very big, and very big. And so it's very, very important to separate everything that you hear me say, everything that we are doing with Kianga Ellis Projects, Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, 3RN, that involves crypto assets, that involves blockchain, that involves what's called Web3, the Internet of Value, tokens, NFTs. I don't have anything to do with anything they're talking about on 60 Minutes or just whatever's in certain files. Let's stay focused. I want you to stick with me. There is intentionally some obscuring and some friction around how Kianga Ellis Projects is presenting this. Okay. We want to take you on a journey that brings you along with the values and with the commitment and the intention that this project is going to need. Why do I say that? What is it that we need? And why does it matter? Because what's at stake is nothing short of our very lives and our existence. I spend a lot of time in rural communities, rural areas in the Northeast, from New York State to Maine. And outside of certain pockets that I've also lived in, places like the Hudson Valley of New York, there are certain pockets of the Northeast that they're not suburbs, they're rural-ish. They're not, but there are a certain kind of rural that's benefiting from proximity to big cities. And so for a long time, I thought I was seeing a rural community or rural life. And I realized no. And as I've moved in the last couple of years to really country, that hasn't been, I guess, gentrified, or, isn't a popular second home or third home or whatever destination of the moneyed set in urban New York City or other areas, I have seen things that are really shocking to me in terms of the infrastructure, the governance of areas, that are really removed, very far removed from the worlds that our politicians inhabit, the literati, the media. Uh, we are facing absolutely I would say the likelihood, I talk about this in our article, that we could have, and if something doesn't change, that we will have, and we probably, even if everything changes, some of this is potentially just baked in the cake, and it's not about things that we're going to be able to change or stop, but more of how we are going to be together and manage our way through, and then what will we have to aid us on the other side. So that's a big part of 3RN, the Rural Rapid Response Network, which is not an organization at all. That's the multi-stakeholder, totally actually really decentralized, unowned, really just a set of activities that we at Kianga Ellis Project are stewarding at this stage, and that does involve other people who may not be part of Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects. But what does emergency response look like? There are some day-to-day things that we want to stand up on the ground involving the project houses as a place for community gatherings, a place for meetings, a place for response, so that we're ready for anything. We're able to survive the pole shift. We're able to survive whatever comes our way. And we do that not by waiting for FEMA to show up, which would be a good thing for us not to wait for. We are going to do that by linking arms, by inventing, creating, forming connections. And we are supercharging that process with internet technology that has some very unique factors, very unique functions. And there's going to be a debate. There's going to be questions about the control apparatus around those technologies. So we'll navigate that as well. So, this is not, I'm not sort of coming out here saying this is the answer. That we have the answer and everything is great and wonderful where the internet is concerned, and apps like this and the decentralized blockchain on-chain tools that we also will use. They're just tools. It's just, where do I have it? As I keep saying, crypto is a pen. It's a tool. But we are going to continue to have our own agency, and we are doing things in real life. We're not going to be dependent on any platform, and we're not even going to be dependent on the internet in terms of our connectivity. We'll use this to drive our meet space connectivity. And so that is where I want to go to now in the conversation and show you what this looks like in practical terms, just to get started. And I talked about this yesterday in the wrap-up of the watch party, which is about us going to the local public meetings. It's so simple. It's so simple. Towns, cities, counties, obviously the states, like the state governance apparatus, the legislature, agencies, boards, Board of Education. There are public meetings happening all day, every day. And where we are starting as a community is to show up and go to the public meetings. And we'll do that online together. We are going to have this friend circle to give each other emotional and moral support and encouragement to do the unsexy, unglamorous work of going to the local meetings, the boring local meetings, and getting informed, but then also as part of that, documenting. Doesn't have to be fancy, just a little written summary, a little report, some notes, could be bullet points. Here is what was covered at this public meeting. Now, then we are going to publish this on chain. So we're going to publish our notes, our documentation, our summaries, whatever you want to write. You can write an opinion piece if you want, or you could just keep it to the facts. At this point, we're not putting any qualifications around what it is that you would have to write, just some kind of documentation. And then we will, in a centralized place that is on the blockchain, so no one can cancel it, no one can delete it, I can't rug it. Once things are published on chain, they're there forever. And we are really going to use the best technology for this, which is the Ethereum blockchain. We're gonna try to operate on mainnet, and this is a thing I'm still maybe I'll bring the questions I have or the concerns I have into a meeting, a conversation, open meeting for us to debate together, and instead of me trying to just present, here are the tools that we're going to use. This is probably a good topic for discussion because we're kind of at this, we can make some choices here. There's some technology that utilizes what's called a layer 2, like on the base network, that has possibly some easier applications. So if you're not, a deep crypto nerd or an internet nerd, some of this stuff is just really clunky and not great to use. So we have some choices to make in terms of what tech stack we want to use for this project at this time. Do we want to deal with the friction of staying on mainnet? And maybe, I'll have to look at what some of those options were, because I really was going to steer us entirely to L2. There are some apps that I thought, we'll just do this on base. But anyway, I have some questions. I have some questions about how our values, where we want to overlay some values with the tech approach that we choose. But that's for another day. The first thing is to just get into the mindset, get into the practice of starting to pay attention to governance at a more granular level, right? We're running into some challenges when we wait for things to burst onto the mainstream news. Then if we have concerns, we've missed it. We've missed it. But it turns out that probably whatever your political persuasion is, whatever your left, right, center, up, down, in, out, if there's something that is hitting your radar screen that really upsets you, that's happening, I guarantee you there's been public discussion and disclosure about it somewhere. It's come through a journey. And I have found over this year of doing this kind of research that whether it's some kind of NGO or a conference or a think tank or, like I said, certain public meetings, all the action is happening where nobody is looking. And there are transparency issues, but there's a lot more available. There's a lot more online. There's a lot more that's happening real time than you might imagine. So that seems like a very simple, easy way for us to get our arms around, first of all, connecting with one another. That's just the first thing. And we're going to use the internet to do that. And we're going to do this project of going to local meetings and documenting and publishing some information about them, not with any agenda, not to be disruptors. I mean, this really is an exercise in being present, being a good citizen as well. Getting to know who's doing what, who's on first in our most immediate environments. But the great thing about the internet also is that you can do this with us wherever you are in the world, and also wherever you are, geographically, rural, state, city, whatever it may be. I think that for starters, just whatever's interesting to you. If you want to focus on your town where you live, then I encourage that. But maybe there's a reason that you want to attend some of these public meetings around particular topics or other agencies or some other geography. But that's the work. That's the stuff we're going to do. So if you want to get involved, follow, besides watching some clip on X or watching our little videos posted on YouTube or whatever, this is the activity, and it's not going to be onerous. It'll just start like this. So I'm going to share my screen. I decided I wanted to do this live with you, which is I am taking a fresh page to work out, and I have my calendar. I have my paper calendar here. Hang on. Is my screen share working properly? Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. You don't need to know anything about. I've just talked a bunch about technology and crypto. I'm sure I've just lost all of you, but if you're still watching, hi, great, thank you. Just ignore all of that for 1 second. The first thing is just, okay. Have you been to your town's website, wherever you live? Have you been to your town of so-and-so website or your county's website? And have you looked at the calendar of events? Have you noticed whether there are things like strategic plans? Have you read them? See, these are all things I've done this year that I have never in all of my over half a century, in all of my half a century in even, whatever, 25 years as a grown up, it's just not something I ever made time for. But I am making time for it now. And so what you're going to watch me do is select a public meeting that I am going to attend virtually this week, and then I'm going to write something, and then I'm going to publish it. And you can do this with me. So I am going to choose, actually, not where I currently reside. I'm sort of a bit nomadic, but I thought it'd be fun to do this in Massachusetts, where I was born and raised. And I have started to reflect on my growing up and the times that we're in, and the history of the country, which is 250 years next year. Got whole thing getting started there in Boston, Massachusetts. So for purposes of our Circle of Trust, the launch of Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, and us not just talking about a new form of civics, not just having a theory about it, but we're gonna just do it. I want to do it for Boston, in Boston, and with where I grew up in mind. So I haven't researched this yet at all. I'm doing this all live, real time. And I'm just going to start like this. City of Boston. Boop. Okay. See, this is real time what you will do if you want to enter the circle of trust and be part of all that's going on here. All right, we have cityofboston.gov and boston.gov. Let's go to boston.gov. All right. Now, I know, let me just say, I understand that the broader project is this rural rapid response network. So you might be saying, why is she going to the city of Boston for a rural network? Well, I'm glad you asked. Presence and connection within our capital cities is critical. So Albany is where I am right now in the 3RN headquarters and my office, the capital city of New York State, Boston, obviously the capital city of Massachusetts, and we have a special interest also in Augusta in Maine. So both our having a physical hub in the capital cities, as well as having a knowledge and a nexus of knowing what's going on, not just for those cities, but of course the capital cities then gives us this window into things that affect the entire states. So this is why Boston, Albany, Augusta, they're not, Augusta's a little bit rural kind of. I mean, all of Maine is kind of rural. We need to be following what's happening in the states, in the cities, and our relationship with more dense populations is actually critical for the day-to-day replenishing some of the longer term development, economic development work that needs to happen for rural America. So this is why it makes sense to talk about what's happening in cities as well as, the rural areas. But in particular here, this is that for the big project at large, but it's also, a personal choice, a story, just a kind of personal story because of me wanting to find out what happened to my old neighborhood where I grew up, and I am curious. So here we are. These are the types of websites that every municipality probably has, should have. And what I'm doing is I'm here and I am looking for, okay, public notices. The project right now is to find a public meeting this week that I can go to as part of my contribution to Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects. Okay. Let's look at this. We're looking at this together. This is not entertainment, obviously. I think that's probably clear. This is work, people. This isn't fancy. I'm not a professional, online media person at all. I do have fun making some of the videos. That's just fun. But yeah, I hope the light is okay and the internet connection is decent. All right, so this is the work. I'm demoing for you what you will be doing. You will put in your town or whatever town you want to do. We're focused on New York and New England. So if you're outside of that geography and you still want to, you think it'd be fun to kind of do this new kind of civic engagement with us, we invite you to pick somewhere that you think is interesting in New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts. But I would say I will be on the ground in New York, Massachusetts, and Maine. So if we could focus on those 3 states. that will aid us in terms of later connecting things that we're able to do in person with the things that we're looking into by going to the meetings virtually. So what else do we have here? All right. City Council Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. That is, we got to find something that's virtual. Board of okay, tomorrow. This will be interesting. Okay. Board of Election Commissioners meeting tomorrow. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., virtual. City of Boston's Board of Election Commissioners will hold a virtual board meeting on Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 at 10 a.m. Agenda, welcome and introductions, certification of results from the November 4th general municipal election, certification of initiative petitions, other election matters. Members of the public who wish to participate in this meeting are asked to contact election@boston.gov. Okay. Brilliant. That was easy. So that was easy. I just put in the town that I want to observe or pay attention to or participate in. It can be your town, or it can be another town like Boston. I don't live there anymore. I haven't lived there since 1991 when I graduated from high school. Right. So next year is also, this is also why I'm doing Boston, because next year is also my 35th high school reunion. So yeah, we have a special interest in Massachusetts this year, and for other reasons, which if you follow me on social media, that there's a particular candidate that I'm very enthusiastic about. So I want to be spending a lot of time in Massachusetts for that reason, but that's not for today's conversation. So I found a meeting by going to the town website. It was how easy was that? I know I've been talking a lot, but that really would have only just taken me like 1 second, literally 1 minute. I wanted to do it live with you because I wanted to demo it. I wanted to be part of this conversation to show how absolutely easy and actually even fun this is going to be. I put in Boston, City of Boston. I went to the website, I looked around, public notices, public meetings, and I scrolled and I found, I didn't have to look very far. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., I'm available. I can do that. The Board of Elections is having a meeting. Now I will send the follow-up email, and I guess I'll probably get a Zoom link. Some meetings, last week, the New York City Council, they streamed their meetings on X, And we know this in rural communities. We're lucky if we can get a Zoom link. Maybe my town in Maine, my little town in Maine, the meetings are shared on a Zoom link. My town in Schoharie County in New York, very small, very small. But in those meetings once a month are also streamed on Zoom, and the link is on the town website. So because of the pandemic, pretty much, even little tiny rural towns, often, you can go to the meetings on the internet. It's great if you can go in person, but for purposes of our project, because we're connecting initially online, we'll focus on the virtual meetings that we can join. A lot of times, though, you do have to email, you do have to register in advance. So plan to have that step, take that step. And then the meetings in that case usually are not live streamed, but they're often, in my experience in Maine, recorded and maybe posted on some kind of government website or YouTube. You'll get the recording posted later. So sometimes these meetings do not really allow for your participation as the public. You can just observe. I'm sure there's all these different flavors, but this is the process. This is what we're doing. This is what you can do. So this is what you can do today. And then depending on where you're seeing this video, you can reply on X, or you can send Kianga Ellis Projects a note on Telegram. I guess I don't know the handle off the top of my head. I will put it on our X account, okay? At Kianga Ellis on X. I'll post like a clip of this live stream, just a little highlight, and I will put our Telegram. So if you want to do this week, like, why not? If you have an hour or 2 hours, I would say, however long the meetings are, and then say another hour just to briefly write something, then we will go to our meetings this week. We can talk. We'll talk amongst ourselves on Telegram about what meetings we're each doing. And then we will publish them together as a group under the banner of 3RNJ. The rural 3RN stands for the Rural Rapid Response Network. The 3 R's and the N is for network. And then the J is for journal. Okay. I had a place I want us to publish this for the journal, and I think I'll probably still go with it just because it's ready to go. And we can, over time, think about whether there are other blockchain, like Ethereum, L1, more decentralized places that we want to publish, post our written, our transparency, our documentation, our archival, notes, reflections, whatever it may be. But for now, that's how we're going to get started. Okay, yeah. How do you feel about that? Doesn't it sound like so much fun? I think it's not fun to do on your own. It just isn't any like sauce with it. But if we do it together, we come together and then we talk as a group, we have these public meetings, like these live streams, and through our activity of showing up, learning, then talking amongst ourselves, posting on chain, basically it's a social media. It's sort of just the next iteration of social media. So we wanting to have these user interfaces or apps that have a lot of users, that have a lot of eyeballs, but also our content is rooted, our data is rooted in an immutable, censorship resistant or proof, has finality. So we can't be deleted, or nothing that you are going to do as part of this project and contribute can be just deleted by me. Or I've had this experience on X. If you change your subscription, maybe if you've published an article, this happened to me. So I had published an article on X when I had a certain premium subscription, which I then downgraded. And when I downgraded it and I lost that feature, my article's gone. I can't get it back. Or there have been times that I've done a live stream on X, and then later I go back and discover that the content's just not there. So, these are the problems that we have with these apps and these platforms, and even the problem of other people, even the problem of me. Like, there's many points, there's many reasons for the technology that this next version of the internet is being built around or enhanced by. It's also this idea of being trustless, which is a topic for another day. But, in what ways do you, as a person, deciding about your time, deciding about your value, like what you have that's valuable? First, I got the Banny, then I got the power. So the power being, the energy that's within you, your vitality, your attention, your favor. Without anything material, without having money, without having, favor, without having sponsorship, without having a ton of followers, without having a platform, we each still have something incredibly valuable and powerful that by linking arms and working together, we can do some great things. We can do even greater things when there aren't certain dependencies or there aren't certain points of failure. So as we progress in this work together, you'll see by example, not from me just telling you, but you'll see the ways in which the technology means something new can happen, something different, and you can have confidence in what you're doing because you will have control over your data. There'll be transparency around who's doing what within Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects as an organization. And what limitations I have as a moderator or any particular individual, so that there's a certain baseline of how we operate, how things are happening, how finances are moving. That's all transparent, all on chain, and say like censorship proof or resistant, unruggable certain aspects. Like for example, if you spend a lot of time in a group, say a group that somebody's created on X or any of these social media platforms, if you're not in control of that group, somebody could just delete it, and then poof, there go your connections. There go the years or months that you spent in that community, with that community, building relationships. Somebody else can just nuke that overnight without consulting you or thinking about how that might impact you. So we want to avoid that. That's part of the opportunity we have to go through some friction and use some of these new tools and build what we're building as a crypto native on-chain organization and community. So that, yeah, the ties that you make, the bonds that you form, what you give in terms of your time and attention, and things that you may create that are part of what we do as a group activity, that there's a mechanism that preserves that and doesn't leave that information in the limited control of another person, or doesn't make it vulnerable to failure or changing, mutability. It's like immutable in a certain way. I think you get where I'm going with it. I don't have to belabor the point. So we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I don't think, let me see. I don't think there are any comments. That's it. I'm gonna say goodbye for now. Just as a recap, I covered a lot of ground, had a bit of a slow start, I think, but hey, like I said, this is just a come as you are. I come as I am to the stream. I press go live, and we go live, and it is what it is. We are this week, each of us, going to find a public meeting that's online that we can attend. We are going to attend it, and we're going to learn, and then we're going to write a little something about the meeting. Short, long, bullet points, doesn't matter, just some kind of documentation as to what went on. And then we will pool our writings and we will publish them together on something called 3RNJ, the Rural Rapid Response Network Journal. And within this activity, we have a plan for how to pay ourselves for our time, how to monetize our content and the out the outcome of this time that we're spending and make this a financially sustainable activity, not just for us, but to make it possible for other people to join us in this work. So it's very much why we are fundraising through the Juice Box on Chain. It's why membership in Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association requires a cryptocurrency wallet, so that the community can distribute value in the form of crypto assets. So we can just circulate that to one another as we, kind of create this virtuous circle, this flywheel, this circular economy amongst ourselves with our attention, with our effort, and our ability to get interest and momentum around the things that we are observing in our own local communities at the local level in these public meetings that not that many people are paying attention to, in my experience. So that's the assignment for this week. You saw me do it, how easy it is. Just Google your town, go to the website, look at the calendar, find a meeting, register for that meeting, and Bob's your uncle. Let us know either in the reply on X, on the X account, or if you want to do things more privately, you can send us a message on Telegram. The Telegram will also be posted with the clip for this on X. Okay. Good to be with you. It's fun to. I'm excited. This has been a long time coming. So look forward to just surviving the madness, surviving all of the pulls that are shifting. Bye bye.